Gods, monsters, and the men among us. I think I messed up that sayings. As we've all come to learn, my friends, Natlan has never had a god above acting as its Archon, which honestly, I suspected something like this might happen, but just not for Natlan. I assumed if any Archon were to be anything other than a god, it'd be the Tsarista, but then I sort of just abandoned that line of thinking, just because when I went, oh, did I figure something else? I went and checked to see if there was any reference to the Tsarista being a god, and then immediately saw Dainsleif quite literally calls the Tsarista a god.
She is a god with no love left for her people.
But to be fair, he also called the Pyro Archon a god.
When the god of war shares this secret with the traveler.
So this leaves us nowhere with regards to this, but in any case, let's focus on the Pyro Archon, because my friends, with the knowledge that the Pyro Archon has always been but an ordinary, albeit strong, mortal, I mean, let's be honest here, we're really stretching the definition of what a human is. What is this? This presents an interesting situation to us, and it's this. The first Pyro Archon, despite being a human, somehow came out victorious in the Archon War, a war amongst the gods, or maybe he didn't, because it's worth pointing out, of the original 7 Archons, seems like some didn't even fight. I mean, Venti didn't really, like, personally fight anyone. I mean, let's be honest, they jumped that nigga Dekarabi, and that was like a 10-on-1. Egeria was literally just handed the position. Rukkhadevata, likewise, didn't really fight, so it could just be, you know, like those gods, he too was just handed the position. Or, like stated earlier, he could have teed the fuck up and put down some gods, because in all honesty, killing a lowly god would be trivial for someone like Xbalanque, given as a mortal, Xbalanque took down and slayed the beastly Pyro Sovereign, Xilonen himself. You see, once long ago, 'twas the drug-addicted sovereigns that once ruled these lands. And no, for those wondering, this wasn't before the arrival of the heavenly principles. It was after, given when Chikya speaks of Natlan's earliest days. She remarks, quote, "The origin of the phlogiston engraving, narrowly speaking, comes from the days when Natlan was still ruled by a pyro dragon, who's caused humanity to exist only in primitive tribes. When the rule of the Pyro Sovereign started in relation to the Sovereign's defeat to the Heavenly Principles and the conflict with the second who came arrived is unknown, but one thing's certain, and it's that shit eventually hit the fan. War eventually ravaged the lands. The Pyro Sovereign went berserk, attacking everything. One mural depicts the Pyro Sovereign, a black dragon attacking a sacred white tree, most likely a part of Irminsul, as the final envoy of Celestia. Attempts to protect it and the people of Natlan, but given the text said the envoy's powers were shattered and smashed, it sounds as if this envoy gave their life to the cause. Cause of protecting the people, the cause of protecting the tree. Yeah, guys, I definitely think Celestia hates humanity. Can we just a moment of silence, please? This is. Who the fuck's stirring up trouble in my neighborhood, bro? Of all the times to commit a fucking crime, man. What's interesting is the next part of the text describes what I can only assume are the powers of the abyss, evil lurking within the dark and filth flooded forward. If that's the case, then this conflict could very well coincide with that of that bastard crackhead dragon king returning to Tibet, soaked upon forbidden knowledge. And given a pep-stated Nibelung led the sovereigns in a war with said power of darkness.
We all once believed in the distant past that only forbidden knowledge could give us enough power to defeat the heavenly principles. The Dragon King acquired the power of darkness from outside of this world, and led us in a fight against the order established by the outsiders.
It sounds like the Pyro Sovereign was one who followed Nibelung to the end. And that's right, my friends. He followed him to the end. Because just like how Niba bitch died, Xilonen would eventually fall at the hands of humanity's best and brightest, Xbalanque. And it wasn't even some graceful death, thank God. Xbalanque would rise from this dead fucking dragon's heart, consumed by flames. I mean, he cut the dragon in half, which, if we're being completely honest, is still far too good for it. To attack a celestial envoy whilst they are protecting humanity. Me personally, I can't allow that. I would have subjected the dragon to rat torture. Man, I am so glad you asked what rat torture is. You see, back in my day, we would have tied this sovereign by its limbs, exposed its stomach, grabbed like 3, 4, 12 rats in a metal bucket, placed the rats on the dragon's stomach, then placed the metal bucket on top of them so they have nowhere to go. Then, take hot coals, place them on the bucket so it heats up rapidly. The rats, now desperate to get out or risk burning alive, would start eating the dragon's stomach to burrow their way out through its body to avoid death. That is the only punishment befitting this filthy, spineless, 3-time fatherless cretin that calls itself a dragon! Anyway, it's presumably due to being consumed by flames, Xbalanque would die, but then simply be revived from the flames. Following this, he and another, much more friendly dragon, the Sage of the Missing Flame, Waxel Uba Khan, would become lovers in a volcano or some shit. I don't know, bro. While his ascent to the divine throne is marred with mystery, Mavuika tells us this about it.
At first, he was a mortal man with no special power. After he ascended to the divine throne, he used it to borrow power from the heavens and establish the rules of Natlan.
And y'all already know what I'm lasered in on! Renova! This is the first time ever we've heard the heavens referred to by this name, or even the first time we've heard this name point blank, and it's but one letter off Renove, which is a Goetic name. The Goetia, the Ars Goetia. The book being where all the gods in Teyvat get their names from, and man, it's been far too long, my friends, but don't think I haven't forgotten me amigos! Grab onto that cross a little tighter, because even though it's been a while, back into the Book of the Damned we go. Of all the 72 demons in the Ars Goetia, number 27 is Renove, a Marquis and Earl of Hell. Renove commands 19 legions of spirits. Renove is a taker of souls and comes to Earth to claim said souls when they're nearing death, almost like an angel of death. Renove takes the form of a horrifying monster with a staff and is known for its pacifist nature because Renove does not like fighting. Renove instead teaches others the art of rhetoric, and that's all we know. Aliens, man, you hate to see it. Anyway, given Renove's ties with death and the fact that it's been long established that the gods have Teyvat to reflect their Goetic counterparts, this would seem to suggest Renove's divine Teyvatian counterpart also deals with death, and it just so happens there's a god on Teyvat that deals in death, and it's the Shade of Death. Further connecting these two, however, are their elements. Let me explain. No, literally, let me explain, but not me, you know, old me. I have a video from 4 months ago about the shades that explains my thoughts perfectly, so I'm gonna put that shit to use. Sing for me, boy! What's interesting about the shades is, aside from the dominion they have over the fundamental aspects of existence itself, they're also connected to an element, namely Istaroth and wind and the shade of life and water. What's even more strange is the fact that both of these shades appear to have some connection with two of the original 7 Archons. With regards to the other shades' possible elements, I think symbolically speaking, the Shade of Death probably has control of fire. Anyway, if Renove is in fact the Shade of Death, what it means for Xbalanque to borrow power from them is unknown. How these powers establish the rules of Natlan is unknown, and what these rules Xbalanque even made are also unknown. The only known rule is the pilgrimage, which was set up to defend Natlan and have a constant stream of Pyro Archons. This Xbalanque fella could very well just maybe the greatest human to have ever lived, but with that said, he was only a human, confined to a human lifespan, so could it have been possible he found a workaround? How Xbalanque met his fate is unknown, it's simply not written, but last we heard he was entombed in the primal fire, and barring we saw a scene of Mavuika speaking with flames, one has to wonder if instead of her just being, schizophrenic, these flames are actually Xbalanque biding his time to save Natlan once more.